We're going to begin part 2 of Inductive New Testament Greek Grammar from the Gospel of John. We did John 1:1-4, and now we're continuing in John 1:6, and we'll see how far we go, hopefully up to 14. We would ask you to follow along in your Greek New Testament. You need a Greek New Testament and hopefully a dictionary. And also, if you would like, you could look at my grammar, which is on Google Books under my name, Dr. Gary Statz. There's a brief grammar there. I would also recommend Gresham Machen's grammar in Greek for reviewing certain deductive elements of the Greek language. We are going to be following an inductive method through our teaching, which is what I'm committed to, and also the desire of having students of Greek and Hebrew using their studies of the Bible from the original text of Greek and Hebrew. So it's a joy for me to do this. I'm a retired seminary professor, and I've taught Greek and Hebrew for many years, and it's a joy to pass this on at this time, and at this time in my life. So as we move on to verse 6, it reads, again, and I'm reading from my Greek New Testament, and if you could follow me in a Greek New Testament, we'll look at each word grammatically and also talk about exegetically the meaning of the text, at least as I'm understanding. It begins, ageneta anthropos, and if you could repeat after me as I read, apestomenos para theou, anima alto Ioannes, which would be, there was a man, or there came to be a man, having been sent from God, and his name was John. Notice we begin with ageneta. This is the aorist indicative middle, third person singular from genomai. And we pointed out before that ein in verse 1 is used 3 times, and in verse 3 we have the first ageneta, I think, in contrast to the first ein, showing the eternality of the Logos, of Christ, of the Word. Now, in verse 6 here, if you look at the second ein of John 1:1, the Word was face to face with God. John was not. John was not pras tad theon, but John actually was sent para from God, and John had a beginning, unlike Jesus, who did not have a beginning and who was eternal. So we read, there came to be a man. And anthropos, again, is your first declension noun. Notice the os ending, showing that we're looking at a nominative case here. Excuse me, not a first declension, it's a second declension noun from anthropos, which is masculine with the os ending. So there came to be a man, apestomenos, having been sent from God. Notice apestomenos is from apostello, to send from. This is a perfect passive participle, nominative, masculine, singular, from apostello. When we think of the perfect, and if you're following luo, let's say, it would be leluamenos, leluamenos, and so forth. So, and by the way, that acute accent on the penultimate, that is next to the last syllable, indicates that we're looking at a perfect participial construction. So this is a perfect passive participle from apostello. So there came to be a man having been sent from God. Para, from or alongside of, from God. But again, not face to face with God. He had a beginning, John did, where Jesus was always face to face with God. So having been sent as an emissary from God, notice para is your preposition taking the genitive case in theou. Theou is a genitive masculine singular. Remember, theos is nominative. Theou is genitive. So being with the omicron upsilon. So having been sent from God, the name belonging to him was John. And notice anima is the noun meaning name. By the way, this is another third declension noun. Anima, anamatas, anamati, and so forth. And so the name was to him John. And alto is your dative singular from altos. So the name to him was Ioannes, John. And again, what a beautiful name. The Lord is gracious in the Hebrew, Ioannes. So the name to him was John. Then as we move on, it says, Hutas eothen, and I'll read it slowly so you could follow the pronunciation. Hutas eothen eis marturian, hena marturese peri tu photas, hena pantes pistusosin di autu. And if you could please repeat that, pause it and repeat it with me, it'll help in the internalizing of Greek. So hutas is a demonstrative pronoun, a nominative singular. Again, notice the as ending, indicating a nominative singular demonstrative pronoun. This one then came. Eothen. Eothen is the second aorist indicative active, third person singular from erkamai. And so this one came for the purpose of a witness. Eis marturian. Eis, again, is a preposition that takes the accusative case, and marturian is your accusative singular from marturia, again, a first declension noun. We talked about how in the first part of our grammars, how that the ending with the eta or the alpha here is indicating a first declension feminine noun. So this one came for a witness in order that, and by the way, eothen can be what possibly in Greek you have your basic morphology of parsing, then you have syntax, which comes later, looking at how something might be used syntactically with, placed together with other words in a sentence. And so this could be what many might call a constantive aorist, meaning we're looking at the whole life of John in sort of one view, one, can I say, photograph or view. So this one came for a witness in order that he might witness. Henna, notice, will introduce a subjunctive. This conjunction, henna, in order that he might witness. And marturese is from the verb martureo, a contract verb with the eo ending, and it is an aorist subjunctive, third person singular from martureo. And henna will often introduce a subjunctive. So this one came in order that he might witness, and this could be called a subjunctive of purpose. And notice when we think of the subjunctive, this we would translate something like might or may. And you think if you're following luo, let's say we want to do the aorist, it would be luso, luces, luce, lusomin, lucete, lusosin. In other words, basically you have your sigma, and then you have your omega and long eta in your subjunctive use. So this one came for the purpose of, that he might witness peri tu photos, concerning the light. Peri, again, is a preposition that takes the genitive case, and tu photos is genitive. Notice tu is indicating the genitive, ha tu, as we learned in the article in the first part of our inductive grammar. And photos, again, means light. Phos, photos, photi, photon, so forth. By the way, photos is genitive. It's a third declension noun, and phos would have been the nominative. So this one came for a witness, that he might witness concerning the light. And what was the purpose of that witness, or the result of why he came? In order that hena pantes pistusosin di autu, in order that all might believe through him. Notice hena, the conjunction again, is going to introduce another subjunctive in pistusosin, from pistuo. Again, we have that long omega and osin, which is your third, which is your aorist subjunctive third person plural from pistuo. And pantes means all. And if we think of pantes, the adjective pas, pantas, panti, panta, pantes would be your nominative plural, and so forth, in order that all might believe. And then we have di autu. Here we have that dia again that we saw early on in the first taping that we did. Dia means it's the preposition that takes the genitive meaning through. This one came in order that all might believe through him. That is, he's the agent through whom all are being called upon, as the forerunner of our Lord Jesus, to believe in Jesus. And then John goes on to stress that he was only the light bearer. He was not the light. Notice in verse 8, uk ein akenas taphos al hena marturese peritu photos. That one was not the light. Notice uk is your negative particle not, and ein again is your imperfect indicative active. We saw that in verse 1, third person singular from ami. And then akenos is your demonstrative pronoun, akenos, akenu, akeno, and so forth. That one was not the light. And taphos is your neuter nominative singular, your neuter accusative singular. That one was not the light. And notice taphos again is a third declension noun, as we were saying, phos, photos, and so forth. That one was not the light, but al is your demonstrative pronoun, your contrastive conjunction. But it's a strong conjunction. It's almost like the Hebrew ki'im, but. And so, like we see, for example, in Psalm 1, one's love is in the Torah, but in the Torah Adonai Hepso, and so forth. So that one was not the light, but in order that he might testify concerning the light. Notice the conjunction hena again, taking the subjunctive, and marturese is your aorist subjunctive active, third person singular from martureo. in order that he might testify. And that sigma again, with the eta and the iota subscript, gives it away as a subjunctive, as an aorist subjunctive. But in order that he might give testimony, peri tu photos, concerning the light. Peri is your genitive, and your preposition that takes the genitive, and tu photos is your genitive case. Again, you have phos, photos, third declension noun, and so forth. So this one, that one was not the light, but in order that he might testify concerning the light. One of the things that I will never forget is that when I was taking my exegetical Greek under Zane Hodges at Dallas Theological Seminary years ago, we were doing an exegesis of John. And I remember he brought out in class one time the difference between John and Jesus. And we went to verse 1, or chapter 1, verse 20, where John is giving testimony to those who came to ask who he was. And he said, Ego uk emi cha Christos, in verse 20. I am not the Christ. 5 words in Greek. And then in verse 21, they ask him, are you Elias, Elijah? And he replied with 2 words, uk emi, I am not. And then they said, well then, are you the prophet of Deuteronomy? And he replied, ooh, 1 word. And then they said, well, who are you? I'm just a voice crying in the wilderness. And I remember the point that was made in class, a very good point that stuck with me to this day. In 5 words, he answered, first of all, I am not the Christ, the Messiah. Secondly, he said 2 words, I am not Elijah, uk emi. And then, who are you the prophet? And then he just had 1 word, ooh. And, you know, one of the things that I think we need to see in this is that John was not wanting to elevate himself. He had come to just be a light. And really, we are just to be lights in this world. And I think of my, say as a minister, I'm a minister, I think of ministers, that we are nothing but lights. We're to be lights in this world, like John the Baptist. And we're not to elevate humans, but we're to elevate Jesus, who is the light. We're simply to be pointers to that light, as John the Baptist was. So then we go on in verse 9. Ein tafos ta alethinan, chafotidze panta anthropon, erkamenan es tan kosmon. That is, he was the genuine light, which is light, giving light or enlightening every man coming into the world. Notice again, ein is your imperfect indicative active from a me, 3rd person singular. He was, and then we have ta phos ta alethanon. That is, he was the genuine light. Again, here we have a noun with an adjective, alethanon, meaning genuine. And we're looking again at a neuter in ta phos ta alethanon. And this is what grammarians call the attributive use of the adjective in alethanon. When you have 2 nouns, or 2 articles, he was ta phos and then ta alethanon, it's called the attributive use of the adjective, and we would translate it, he was the genuine light. Without the article, say before genuine, it would be the light that is genuine. It would be a predicate kind of a construction. So he was the genuine light, ha, which is giving light to every man coming into the world. Ha is your relative pronoun, neuter here, which is giving light. And notice photizo is your present indicative active third person singular from photizo, or excuse me, photidze from photizo. Sort of like luo, lues, lue, luamen, luete, luusin. And so that epsilon iota basically is showing third masculine or third person singular, which is enlightening every man. And here we have the accusative, panta with anthropon. We have the adjective pas, pantas, panti, panta, accusative singular, which is enlightening every man. And notice anthropon again is accusative, like what we saw in verse 1 with theon, with that on ending, accusative masculine singular, a second declension noun. So he was the genuine light, which is giving light to every man, erkamenon eis ton kosmon, coming into the world. Now, erkamenon is a present participle, present middle participle from erkamai. So he was the genuine light, which is enlightening every man coming into the world. By the way, eis ton kosmon, eis is a preposition taking the accusative in ton kosmon, which we would translate as the world. Now, the question here, as we're looking at this exegetically, is does erkamenon refer to the genuine light, which is going back to Jesus? If that's the case, he was the genuine light, which is enlightening every man by his coming himself into the world. And it would be then a participle that would be neuter, erkamenon, a neuter participle going back to taphos, ta alethenon, and it would be in your nominative singular neuter. However, it could be going, he is lightening every man. He was the genuine light, which is enlightening every man who is coming into the world. Erkamenon, coming into the world. And there would be then an accusative. It would then be an accusative, a present middle participle accusative singular from erkamai, coming into the world. The question here is, are we talking about every man who is coming into the world being enlightened, either by conscience that Christ is allowing to happen, or is he enlightening every man coming into the world by like a prevenient grace that comes to everyone? Or are we talking about Christ here, who is the genuine light? By his coming into the world, he is providing light for everyone because he is the light. When he said, in John 8, for example. And I tend to probably take it referring back to Christ as the genuine light, which is enlightening every man by his incarnation, by coming into the world incarnationally. And then as we go on in verse 10, into cosmo ein, kai ha cosmos diautu agenata, kai ha cosmos auton uk egno. He was in the world, and the world through him came to be, and the world, though, did not know him. It is interesting, and again is taking the dative case, a preposition in the world, he was, and notice to cosmo is your definite article, to, dative, singular, and cosmo, again, dative, singular. Notice that omega with the iota subscript. So he was in the world, and ein is your imperfect indicative active from eimi. So he was in the world, and the world, now again, we have the conjunction kai, followed by ha cosmos, which is your nominative masculine singular article and noun. So in the world, diautu, here we have the preposition dia with the a, the alpha being elided because it's followed by another alpha. And so you have that elision mark. And dia, by the way, again takes the genitive case. So in the world through him, again, u is indicating a genitive ending in this personal pronoun. So the world through him, agenata, came to be. Agenata, again, is from genomai, and we look at this form as a second aorist indicative middle from genomai. So the world came to be through him, again, telling us what we heard in verse 3, that the world had its beginning through him. And though the world, him, did not know. The world did not know him. Auton is your accusative personal pronoun, singular, and uk is your negative particle, and egno, by the way, is from genosko. It is the second aorist, indicative active third person singular from genosko. And the world did not know him. By the way, what I believe he's saying here, and he came to this world, he was in the world that he created, and the world, even though he was here and brought it into being, did not really know him. And the word to know, I think, goes back to the Hebrew idea, yada. Yada looks at intimacy. Adam knew Eve and so forth. So I think he's looking at intimate knowledge. The world might have known that he was here in an intellectual way, but not knowing him in a personal, intimate way. So the world speaking of those, can we say, who have not believed, those who are not believing in Jesus. They did not know him intimately. And so as we move on, even though he was the creator, and that's very important, just by way of application, to have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. There's a difference between knowing about Jesus and knowing him intimately in a personal way. So then as we go on in verse 11, eis ta idia eothen, kai hoi idioi auton u paralavin. That is, he came unto his own things, and his very own did not receive him. By the way, eis, again, is a preposition taking the accusative case here. And so he came unto his own things, and ta idia is the accusative neuter plural, going with eis, accusative neuter plural. It's from idiois, and then we go to the neuter, ta idion, and then the plural, ta idia. And so he came into his own things, we could say. That is his own creation and so forth. But his very own, kai hoi idioi auton u parelavin. But his very own did not receive him. Notice hoi idioi is again an adjective in this indefinite, in this word here, and it is nominative plural, Notice the article hoi gives it away, and idioi, in other words, and his very own ones. It's an adjective. So his very own ones, nominative, masculine, plural, did not receive him. Auton again is your accusative singular, and is your negative particle, and parelavan is from paralambano. It is a second aorist compound verb, meaning to receive, a third person plural from paralambano. So that is, he came into his very own things of creation, and his very own did not receive him, take him in, and receive him in, let's say, taking them next to their heart and so forth. And I think as we look at this, we're looking again at Jesus as a Jewish God-man, as one who was fully God and fully man, perfect man, came into his very own, but his own people, that is the religious leaders at that time, did not receive him. That's what I think John is saying. The Jewish apostle John is driving home. But then, as many as received him, notice verse 12, chasoi de elavan auton, edoken autois exousion tekna theou genestai, tois pistuosin eis ta anima autou. So, but as many as, notice chasoi is an indefinite relative pronoun, nominative plural from chasas. So as many as elavan. Elavan is from lambano, again, a second aorist indicative active, a third person plural from lambano. But, and de here is a contrastive use of de, the conjunction, but as many as received him, personally received him. And auton is the accusative singular from autos. So as many as received him, notice, edoken autois exousion tekna theou genestai. Edoken is the second aorist indicative active, third person singular from didomi. And so he gave to them, notice the dative plural here, in this personal pronoun, exousion. He gave to them authority, an accusative singular in exousia. He gave to them authority to become children of God. And genestai is an aorist middle infinitive from genomai again. When you're thinking of luo, for example, lusastai would be your aorist or middle infinitive using luo. Lusai, lusastai, luthenai would be your aorist infinitive, active, middle, and then passive. So he gave to them authority to become, and notice tekna theou, children of God. And tekna is your accusative plural, neuter plural from teknon, to become children of God. And theou is your genitive singular from theos. To those, and he's defining, to those who are children of God, to those who believe into his name. Notice tois pistuosin. Here we have an articular use of the participle, to those who are believing. And when we look, notice that tois is an article with the dative, and so is pistuosin. When we think of the participle, using, let's say, luo, luon, luantas, luanti, luanta, luantes, and then it goes on, luusin, in that third plural. So this is a participle, and it's a present active participle with the article, and it is the accusative plural. To those who believe, and then eis ta anima autou, into his name. Notice eis is the preposition with the accusative then, ta anima autou, into the name of him. By the way, pisteuo eis has a beautiful idea here, believing into Jesus' name. That is, affirming him in the heart, in real commitment. And so those who are willing to believe into his name, he gives authority to become the children of God. And what that name represents, that he's fully God, that he is the God-man without sin, who in his name that he came, died, conquers death. Through faith in him, he provides atonement. All of that's involved, I believe, in believing into his name and what his name represents, especially as we look at all of John. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth or believes into him has everlasting life. Same expression, pisteuo eis. So then as we move on, notice verse 13, he then defines what happens when one believes. Hoi uk ex hematon, ude ek thelematas sarkas, ude ek thelematas andras, al ek theu egenetheson. That is, who, and here we have the indefinite relative pronoun, nominative plural, who are not, notice the negative particle u, ex hematon, who are not out of bloods. Ek is the preposition which is taking the genitive here, and hematon is your genitive plural. You know, you think of haima, haimatas, and so forth, haimati, and so who are not out of bloods. Now, what does that mean, out of bloods? Well, some want to apply it to the sacrificial system, not out of all the bloods of the sacrificial system that John is speaking about. Others believe it's talking about male and female in merging themselves and giving birth. So taking it that way, it would be like not out of a natural kind of a birthing, but a divine spiritual birthing from above. And then he goes on, uden, neither ek thelematas sarkas, nor out of the will of the flesh, not out of a human desire to have this happen. It's a divine birth. It's a divine birthing, a divine new birth. Nor out of the will, ek thelematas andras. By the way, andras is from aner, and then we have andras, andri, andra, and it means male. And so it could mean here not out of the desire of a male to have a child. Again, talking about human type of birth. But here we have that sharp contrast here in this conjunction, al ek theu egenetheson, but have been born out of God. And by the way, ek is the preposition, again, taking the genitive in the u suffix here, the u from theos, the u, who have been born out of God. And egenetheson is from genao, again, a contract verb. It is the aorist indicative passive, third person plural, from genao, but have been born out of God. And it's interesting that one of the themes of John's gospel is the new birth. Jesus talking to Nicodemus, he said, Nicodemus, you have to be born again or from above, not just physical birth, but spiritual birth and divine birth, meaning from above. And so this is all in the prologue. And I've often said to students that I believe the prologue sets the stage for the rest of the Gospel of John. All of these themes that we even read about here, the witness of John pointing to the true light, Jesus is the true light, I am the light of the world, coming to his own things, being rejected by the religious leaders, the Sadducees and Pharisees at that time, the Sanhedrin at that time, and so forth. But as many as received him, they are able to become children of God. And Jesus talks, and John records that, of the new birth and the need of a new birth. This is not a physical birthing, but a spiritual divine birthing. So what a beautiful series of verses that now will prepare the way for our next video, which will be talking about the incarnation of Jesus in verse 14. And so we'll look forward to doing that as we finish that inductive grammar on that particular verse and future verses there as well.